I wanted to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, somebody that we've had previously and who's very knowledgeable and helpful in running down the problems of survival, and particularly in relationship to medical first aid and that kind of thing. He's got more pedigrees than I can easily cover, but just to hit a couple of them, he's a fellow at the Emergency Care Specialist Institute and advanced first aid and emergency medical responder, a lot of other courses and so forth. And so he's going to be speaking on something called scene safety, primary assessment, and life threads. So I'm going to turn you over to good friend Jim Thompson.
Thanks, my friend. When it comes to first aid, most people think of it as a band-aid. And anything more serious than that, we've always had 911, or we've always seemed to have ambulances, etc. Those of us who were in LA during the Rodney King riots might have remembered that there was no 911. Hurricane Andrews, we had no 911. Hurricane Katrina, we had no 911. When it's an interesting fact that when somebody gets badly hurt, we are very used to being able to call the fire department, emergency medical system, the EMS, the paramedics, the ambulance drivers, etc., to come pick them up. And if the system goes down, if the grid goes down, if the worst happens, etc., we might be saving our own lives. But other than that, my daughter is a paramedic. I was an ambulance driver over 50 years ago. My dad was, my grandparents were before them. So long, long time. And if somebody gets hurt, we try to stabilize the wound. We try to keep them comfortable, stop the bleeding, and we call 911. And in 12 minutes, 15 minutes later, 3 minutes later, we've got somebody there that knows what they're doing. Well, even in that case, if we have an arterial bleed, and to back up a bit, on a body, we have some very simple systems. We have a pump, we have some pipe, and we have fluid. Very simple. The pump they call the heart, and the pipes we call pipes, arteries, veins, capillaries, whatever they're called. They're pipes. They're just pipe. And we got the fluid called blood, and the blood takes the oxygen from the lungs and gives it to little cells, and everybody lives lives. All goes well. If the pump stops, then the whole fluid stops and the captain dies. Can't get anything up to the brain. So the bottom line is, if the pump stops, we get in there and we just kind of prime the pump, do a little CPR routine. A problem of it is, if we got a hole in a pipe that's a really big hole, all the fluid comes out. So all we're doing by priming the pump is just squirting the fluid out. So simply, when we first arrive on a scene where somebody's hurt, the first thing we want to do is, what happened? Is this scene safe? Is it safe for me to go there? If somebody's hitting a car in the middle of traffic, you would be a nut to run out in the middle of traffic and get hit too. If somebody was in a building that was collapsing, it would be nuts to run in and get collapsed too. And besides everything else, it makes it harder on the next guy if we got two victims because you were stupid enough to go in there and get hurt too. But on a wooded scene, like out at the farm or something, we might not be able to see something as easy. They might be lying on a rake. They might have fallen down and fallen on a rake or an axe or something like that, or a tree stump. There might have been a snake there. The snake might have bit them. Well, when you approach them, you might want to look around and thought, what the heck happened? So it doesn't happen to me. Because it's not going to do any good for me to get hurt too. And that's what we call scene safety. But it's also, we call it obnosis, PT, whatever. We want to look up, we want to look around, we want to look back around and kind of figure what happened to this person. Just because you see him lying down screaming or not screaming, even worse than that, just turned blue, you might want to say, what's going on? If they're lying on a live electrical cord, you don't want to touch them. You'll get zapped too. If some bad guy just shot him or stabbed him from behind the dumpster, you don't want to get stabbed or shot too. So you want to sit back and look at your scene and say, what happened? And then to make the decision, do I want to help? Is it safe for me to help? Am I able to help? Why help? Well, right now in society, we teach call 911. You can help that way. If nothing else, stand back, call 911. You can do something about it, and the doctor can do something about it. Well, if Christy shows up in 15 minutes and the guy's got a hole in the pipe called an arterial bleed, they'll be dead by the time she gets there. The paramedics will die. They'll call in a code 7. They'll call in code 7, Alpha Romeo Tango, Alpha Romeo Tango. You've got an Alpha Romeo Tango. Well, that's fancy fireman talk for he's assuming room temperature. He's DRT. Delta Room Tango. He's dead right there. They don't want to say that on the air, but they just say code 7, which to them means he died 5 minutes ago. It took us 15 minutes to get there. An arterial bleed or a major bleeding of the pipe, it'll bleed out in 3 minutes. Now, with what we were doing the other day at the farm there, we were practicing using some compression bandages. If we decide to help, we take a compression bandage, we wrap that thing around like we were practicing the other day and need to do some more practicing. We might be able to stop that and keep that person alive until the paramedic get there in 15 minutes. We might be able to do something just as silly as ridiculous. Guy's got a hole in the pipe, take our finger and stick it in the hole and plug it. I had somebody I was training recently say, I'd never do that. I told that to another instructor and says, well, just ask, if it was your kid, if it was your child, would you stick your finger into the wound to plug the pipe, to push down on the pipe, to push down the artery for 5 minutes to save your child's life? Would you do that for your own child? Maybe so. You see where I'm coming from? Even if something as ridiculous, and we can practice this in person, is taking a knot in a t-shirt and shoving the knot in there, and then taking a t-shirt and wrapping it around. You might save the life. But the first thing you have to do is scene safety. We don't need 2 victims. Look around. What happened? Could it happen to me? Now we get into a rescuer mode. We're thinking about, if I risk everything, can I save a dozen lives? Can I save 5 lives? Can I save 3 lives? Can I save somebody that's younger and more important than me? My grandkids, I'd gladly give my life to save one of them. Hell, they got 70 years ahead of them, and I got 70 years behind me. So it can be as simple as a woman pulling out a Tampax and shoving it in the hole, and then taking a belt and putting it around it. Now, if you've got ace bandages, and that can help. You have an Israeli bandage, a H bandage, I should say. We were practicing the other day. We have tourniquets. We got all sorts of fancy stuff we can practice. We have in our first aid kit. But even if anything else, we can take a t-shirt, put a knot in the end of it, and shove it in the hole and use it to wrap around. And somebody say, yeah, you get an infection. Well, then hell, in 3 weeks, give him some penicillin. He'll have an infection, but he'll be alive by the time the paramedics get there. If we're in a survival situation whereby the paramedics might not ever come, that's when we really need to know how to use these compression bandages I was showing, etc. But the main thing is deciding to help. We're under no obligation to help our fellows. None. Zero. As a scuba instructor the past 15 years at Max Sports, I'm not this year for the first time, too old. But anyway, if one of my students got hurt or started drowning, I had a moral and legal obligation to use the best care I knew to save their life. I was their instructor. They entrusted me. I had a duty to act, a duty to perform, as does my daughter as a paramedic, etc. They have a duty to act. For somebody, just friends, we have no duty to act outside of our own ethics. Some people might be afraid of being sued. Well, there's Florida and about every other state has a Good Samaritan law. Pretty seldom ever gets challenged, but it basically means that if you help somebody to the best of your knowledge, to the best of your training, and you are not negligent about it, you're not evil about it, you're not doing it badly, then you can't be sued for doing it, or you can't be effectively sued for doing it. You're helping out a fellow person. You're expecting nothing in return, you're expecting no payment, and you're not doing something really stupid. You understand? You're not trying to do CPR with the heel of your boot. So, if you can use the training you have, you might save a life. So, the first thing we do is we look around and we do scene safety. It might not be safe. It really might not be, but that's a judgment I might take that says it's acceptable for me to risk my life to save that person, or it's not acceptable for me to risk my life to save that person. That's my moral decision. Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Am I going to run out in the middle of I-75 and try to get somebody? No. Not going to happen. I might take my car and put it sideways and try to divert traffic a bit, et cetera, after calling 911. If we're on a mountain and we're getting struck by lightning, it'd be stupid to go up there with the guy just struck and stand right there and get struck by lightning too. If we're at a rock slide and the rocks are still coming down, it'd be stupid to run over there and get it. On the other hand, if I decide to do it, I know I could get killed doing it. That is my decision as a human being. I'll go out there and do it, or I won't do it. In society as is now, if I help somebody to the best of my ability, I'm not going to get sued over the thing. If I do, it won't be effective. Very seldom. Very seldom that's pushed at all, as long as I don't do anything. Now, all I have to do is turn it over to somebody more trained than I am. But there is a contract. If you start helping somebody, you're not allowed to quit because you have now made a contract with an unconscious person or a conscious person that you're going to try and save them. And as soon as you try, then you're obligated until you are either in personal danger, you are too tired physically, not that you're tired, you physically cannot continue for your own safety, or you've been relieved by someone with superior training, which would normally be a paramedic, EMT in this case. Does that make sense, guys? Now, after we do it, we're looking for life threats. That's the guy lying on the rake that you don't see. Might not see anything. You might be blue. He might be having a heart attack. He might have had a heart attack. He might have a diabetic coma. He might have he might have had a shock because of a bee sting or something like that. He might have had peanuts. He might have been exposed to latex, some allergy. He might have an EpiPen where you might be able to help him do with that. But the first thing we do is scene safety. We make the decision to help. We call 911 or ask for other help or ask, go get me, Dave, go get me the first aid kit, Marcia, get the AED. Yeah, there is no 911. We're going to have to do it ourselves. Once we've stopped the life threat, then we're going to be looking for the secondary assessment. What else is going wrong with this person? Does the person have a compound fracture through the pipe? In other words, is one of the bones breaking that pipe? I might have to do something about that. I might have to just go on down. But we're not going to get into secondary assessments today. It's just life threats, scene safety, decision to help, call for help, ask for more people to join in, call 911, whatever we can do. And then find the life threats. And whatever the life threat is, if it's plugging the leak, wrap the bandage around, plug the leak. If it's an EpiPen because of a bee sting, help them with the EpiPen. We can show you how to do that. If it's Narcan, I train a lot of people on Narcan lately. You sit there and one nose, give them 3 minutes, up the other nose. They'll take that high right away if they're dying from an opiate overdose. We can buy Narcan, by the way, at Amazon or Walgreens for about $45. You'll save a life. Life threats. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. Any questions or what questions or confusions?
How about a true story of some kind or other?
There's other times where you go in to help somebody and they don't want to be helped. Would I still help them? No, I could still help them by calling 911 though, couldn't I? They might be on drugs. They might go, hell no, buddy. I paid a lot of money for this high. Don't narc me, buddy. You're going to take that high away. Hey, I'm dying. I don't care. I'm feeling Never Never Land. If they tell us no, we don't have to help them. In fact, legally, we can't help them if they tell us no. You see? Now, what if they say no, 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 flump, and they pass out? Oh, I can help them all I want because the courts have ruled, basically, in my understanding, he would have said yes if he knew he was going to be passed out and you could have helped him then. So if somebody tells no, don't help them, but you can still call 911. You can still ask somebody to go to the AED, automatic electronic defibrillator, which can heart, you prime the pump until you jump the pump, just like a car battery, right? You jump it with the AED. That can reset the pump and start working good. It might not. It might. It's got a better. CPR only works about 4 to 6% of the time, 4 or 6% of the time. It doesn't work very often, but it can delay killing the captain for that 5 minutes until the paramedics get there. You see, it's not going to do like the movies normally where the guy comes back and say, thanks, I appreciate the CPR. There's also a saying of, if the patient starts counting the compressions with you, stop. If they're talking to you, they don't need CPR. If they're breathing, they don't need CPR. The pump's working for the lungs to work, etc. So basically, you need to have their permission. If you're going to help somebody, and I appreciate bringing that up, you do have to ask them, can I help you? My name's Jim. I'm trained in first aid. Can I help you? If they say no, I go, fine. If I think they really need help, I might say, hey, that pipe shouldn't be squirting so fast, you know? You want something to plug it? I got something here to plug it. I can help. Or you can still call 911 and get the paramedics on the way. Any
I have
questions?
a question. I have a question about that. Like you were saying, put a tampon in or stick your fingers in or do anything to keep it from bleeding. And let's say there is no 911, right? As you set it up in the beginning, that there's no one who's going to come and help. It's just us. So then any tips like how long before you would change a bandage like that or how?
Well, what we do is we're going to plug the leak. And we're going to plug the leak. And we're going to plug the leak. And you take the Tampax. Of course, there's different sizes. I didn't know until I became an instructor, but you take the superior, not the ultra plus, the superior, the big one. Put it in there. Put the Israeli bandage around, tighten that thing down, put a tourniquet on. If that doesn't work, put 2 tourniquets on, and that's going to stop the flow. If there's nobody there, we're not probably going to put a tourniquet on. We're going to use the compression bandage because with tourniquet on, they can lose their arm after about maybe 12 hours, 14 hours, something like that. On the other hand, life over limb. Am I going to save their life or not? I'd rather save their life and lose the arm. You see? Now, we can get into all sorts of weird stuff. We're out in Booga Booga jungle. You can take a hemostat and sew the artery closed and amputate the arm. We're not getting it's just plug the leak. We take it in, we shove it in, we take that H bandage, which we had practice, I think, around Dave's neck and stuff like that. Tie that thing down. If that doesn't stop, boom. By the way, you never take a dressing off that's wet, that's got blood on it. You just put another one on, you 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 tighten it down, you put another one on. Why? Because if you take it off, you might stop the little guys from coagulating, from stopping the clot. You see?
I see. So then when you
Pressure.
finally don't see any more blood showing on the top bandage, then you've stopped it.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the bottom
Right.
line of any of this. Your safety, get permission to help the best you can. If nothing else, call 911. If there is no 911, that's when our more advanced training,
Yeah.
which will go into, will kick in.